Well, good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to the 5th episode of the Alberta First Pension Plan Plan Online Town Hall. Every second Tuesday, we present and discuss the benefits of an Alberta pension plan. My name is Kerry Lambert, host of the Chris Kerry Show, and I'll be your host for this evening's Town Hall. Alberta's First Pension Plan is a grassroots initiative of concerned Albertans who want to educate all Albertans on the benefits of an Alberta pension plan. Our goal is to collect 270,000 names and contact information. And once that's done, we will begin to collect signatures within a 90-day window and present it to our Alberta provincial government and initiate a referendum on an Alberta pension plan. And then you, Albertans, get to choose whether you or not you want an Alberta pension plan. We are not affiliated with any political party or lobbyist group. We rely on donations and volunteers to get our message of an Alberta pension plan out to everybody. Please consider volunteering and donating. And of course, you can get more information by going to our website, our great website, albertafirstpension.ca. And if you want to get a hold of us, you can also send an email off to us at albertafirstpension@gmail.com. That'll get us as well. I'm going to bring up our good friend and part of the team here. She's the coordinator on all this stuff. Nicole Kimpton's going to come up here. There you go. How are you, Nicole?
Good. How are you, Kerry?
I'm doing great. I'm stumbling on my words already. I should have more than just coffee in my cup.
It's a Tuesday, but it feels like a Friday.
It's a Tuesday. You know what? It's a Tuesday, and it's a summer, right? I mean, It's great that we're doing this. The whole point of us doing this all the way through the summer is that everybody's busy, and as much as we would like to be in the same room with everybody, this gets our message out there better. Really, right? I mean, there's people watching right now, but they can still watch for the next couple of weeks because, again, we do this every second Tuesday. So I wanted to bring you on and just talk a little bit about what are we going to be doing in the fall, and then also what can we do in terms of donations and volunteers, because I believe the last town hall we did, we have 380 volunteers who have signed up, and they're just ready to hit the tarmac and start getting work done. So maybe you can just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, I believe it's actually 400 now.
Wow.
I'd have to go in and look at the actual number, but 400 volunteers, they're ready to go. I'm getting phone calls every day and people asking, like, they want to have the pages sent in to us where they can send them, how they can do more, can they do markets, things like that. So Our volunteer roles are quite vast. We have a few. We need data entry, obviously, because as the sheets come in, we're not fast enough getting all that information into. I'm
sure.
And so it's lovely to have the help for data entry, but then also volunteers of people that just want to go out and collect the signatures or collect people's names, talk to people, go to markets. We've had a couple people say they want to take some of our flyers and go to parking lots and put them on people's windshields. Yeah. So there's lots of opportunities, lots of things they can do. And we have some exciting things coming for the fall. We're going to start doing our events again and going out on the road, as well as we're going to continue doing the phone calling and getting people on board to help out, because some people can't come out to the meetings. So the town halls are great. But we all have a group of people that are really interested in having an Alberta pension plan, and they want to support that. Yeah. So we are having those volunteers just get their people and talk to their people, and then they get their people. So the more we can do that, the better. And then we have some exciting fundraisers coming up. So we'll have to stay tuned for that.
Oh, stay tuned for that. Ooh, I like that. Just keep you hanging.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So it'll be fun, and it'll bring everybody together, and hopefully we can have a massive group and just a party. But like I said, stay tuned for that. It's going to be exciting.
Is awesome. Mm-hmm. So even in terms of the volunteering right now, is there anything, like, obviously we want people to sign up, and there's a little ticker, volunteer at albertafirstpension@gmail.com. On the website, I know we talked about that it's kind of a two-step process, or maybe not two steps. There's two paths, I guess. One is if you have not signed up right now, you can go on to the website and then click on sign up now and actually just sign up right there, right? Yeah. The other way that you can do it is you can also print out the sheets, I believe, and print out these. I'll just click on here. Fingers crossed that everything works. I haven't tested it. This is the sign up sheet. And really, all you would need to do is print this off. They're designed for 8.5 by 14. So if you've got 8.5 by 11 paper in your printer, they will work. It's just that the boxes will be smaller. But you can take those out and get your neighbors and your friends and relatives to sign up. That is the old-fashioned manual way. And of course, then that's the two-step process. We end up doing that, and then they end up getting scanned in and then manually entered into our database, which again is the same database that if you ended up just going back out to here and going sign up now, that gets put right into the database. So this is a faster way of doing it. And it certainly alleviates a lot of the extra work on our end in order to do it. But if it makes sense to print out those sheets, then by all means do that, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And I believe also in the printout, and I'm just going to scroll down. There's a lot of stuff that you can, print these things out, stuff them in your neighbor's mailbox if you want to. These ones here, where is it? There's 4-up. These little 4-up cards, they're designed, you print them out and then you cut them here so that they're just one small sheet. It's got the QR code, and that QR code, if you have your phone, you can use your phone and it goes right to the link as well. Another great way to, if you want to print off a couple of those and stick them in mailboxes, that's great too. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. Anything else you want to tease us with in terms of fundraiser? No.
Well, it's going to be good. So we're looking, obviously, like, we're grassroots, so we don't have any affiliation with any of the political parties or anything like that. So everything we do is all on our own. We go out and put in our money, our time, everything. So every little bit definitely helps.
That's right.
The more donations, the more funding, and donations are also volunteering. So the help is greatly appreciated because we can be run off our feet sometimes. So
for sure. Yeah. And again, to donate, you can actually go to albertafirstpension.nationbuilder.com/donate. I'm going to the way this system works is I have to kind of copy or hide things and then copy them and then put them back on. And I'm going to put those on in the comments so that everyone can get that. Sometimes it's just easier to get it, and then you can copy and paste it from whatever you're looking at. If you're watching it on Rumble or YouTube or X, we're now on X. Awesome. Live streaming. So we did have a presence on X, but now we're able to live stream out to X. So that's great. Again, thank you for the donations in order to get us to be able to do this. There is a lot of it costs a lot of money to even just put these things on in order to get the software in order to do this. And everything else. So donations go to that. They go towards the events. They go out to printing. They go to anything that kind of supports the cause of getting the words out, right? So, and anything else there, Nicole?
No,
we're all good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for coming on, and I'm going to push you back to the back, and I'm going to call upon our guests. Actually, it was going to be both guests, and I'll tell a little bit of a story in a second. So, thanks again, Nicole, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks. Okay. So tonight's topic is, of course, we talk about this all the time. What are some benefits of the Alberta Pension Plan? And in previous episodes, we've covered, well, there's a chance for lower contributions. There's a chance for higher pension checks for pensioners. We've even talked a little bit about spousal benefits. The idea is that we can't make any of those changes or anything because it has to be apples to apples from the CPP to an APP. But we're also going to talk about the benefits of an Alberta pension plan managed here in Alberta, and then what can we do with that? Because that is another big thing. Our pension expert tonight is Gordon Lang, who's a retired actuary, and also we were going to have Mitch Sylvester, who of course is our head of the Alberta First Pension Plan group, but unfortunately he is stuck somewhere on the, I'm going to say Manitoba, he's probably Saskatchewan, Montana border right now. He's trying to get across the border, and he just logged in and said that his cell phone wasn't working very well. So rather than try and get through this limping along, he's going to be watching, and if there is an opportunity for him to log in, then we will do that. But in the meantime, this is a live town hall, so we encourage you to ask questions and make comments throughout the presentation. Just put 3 question marks before your questions so it can be flagged. And please share this webinar. And now I will bring on Gordon. Hello, Gordon.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, pretty good for an old guy.
Oh, excellent. You're not old. You're retired, but that doesn't mean you're old. So you're a new face. We've done 4 episodes so far. We've had Tanner today on. We've had Mitch, Sylvester, of course, myself and Nicole. No one has seen you yet. So why don't you just do a little bit of a bio on who you are, and then especially, what expertise you can bring to the table on this.
Well, my background is as an actuary.
Okay.
I worked in the actuarial business, as I call it, both life insurance and pension consulting, for 60 years. That's 60, not 16.
Wow. Yeah.
And sold our company. The last 25 years, we owned our own company. We employed 25 people at one time. And we're certainly the largest independent actuarial firm in Alberta.
Wow.
Actually, Western Canada for that. During that period, I had several thousand clients, mainly small business professionals, but we had a few large clients as well. Okay. Now, way back, I don't know if anyone remembers the late, great Pat Beauchamp. But Pat contacted me some years ago, and he was the president of the Alberta Residents League and also involved with a Citizen Center for Freedom and Democracy in Edmonton.
Okay.
Pat worked with me, and I did all the calculations I could, spoke to the Chief Actuary's office in Ottawa several times, and produced a report which is called the Proposal for an Alberta Pension Plan.
Okay.
This, to my knowledge, is the last remaining original of that report.
And when was that done?
I would say about 20 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Because at that time, Ottawa could not give me information broken down by participants in various provinces.
Okay.
So what I worked with was Statistics Canada information, both on the distribution of age groups among the working and retired population, as well as earnings. It's obvious that Albertans had two things in common. They were younger on average, particularly the working population, but also the fewer retirees, and they were higher paid. So what that meant was they were over contributing towards the plan. And I calculated contributions that were being made by Albertans, working Albertans, were in excess of the benefits that they were going to receive. So almost a third was excess. And I think that was recently proven out by the TELUS report, formerly Morno Sobico, on the transfer value by their calculations from the CPP to an Alberta Pension Plan, or an Alberta First Pension Plan, as you prefer. And so even although my report, along with working with Pat and his people, was a little bit simplified compared with the TELUS report, the findings were very, very similar. The other concern I've got is that whereas the federal is in dollars, the lost unfunded liability or shortage of assets in the Canada Pension Plan was $1.4 trillion, almost equivalent to the national debt. So that is scary, and that's being, to some extent, financed by Albertans paying more money into the plan than they should. And it's pretty obvious that given our own plan, we can have either lower contributions, higher benefits, for pensioners, excess benefits for active workers.
Yeah.
We assumed in the Alberta Pension Plan report 20 years ago that the youngest people were the ones who had the biggest problems. They were getting a 2% return on their money.
Yeah.
You can do just as well with a bank account.
Yeah.
And so we proposed a money purchase plan alongside the base plan to mainly provide for substantial extra benefits for younger people to increase their rate of return to a reasonable level.
So you did that up in the report 20 years ago to
That's
say
correct.
that's the way it should be. So why hasn't
it was very much in parallel with the TELUS report.
So why hasn't the CPPIB, the CPP Investment Board, done something like that?
Well, they've got a $1.4 trillion deficit.
Yes, they do.
And their investment managers are grossly overpaid, and there's far too many. Of course, they don't want to see a large transfer of 300 billion plus into an Alberta pension plan because it would reduce their numbers, their salaries, and their bonuses. So it's very self-serving. Anytime you see a CPP ad, you should know that this is self-serving.
Mm-hmm.
This is by the people who manage the money to protect themselves.
Yeah. Well, Sherry has already touched on and what I was going to bring up, and so we're definitely going to be talking about that. I heard the CPP only made a little over 1% interest this year. Now, again,
and the other problem with that is, they have some bad hidden investments.
Yeah,
they have a lot of money in commercial real estate, particularly office buildings.
Yeah,
and one example was a building in San Francisco they had invested in $500 million and sold for $1.
Oh, wow. That's a loss.
So there must be a lot of other ones they're holding at their quote book value, where that book value has deteriorated very substantially over the last several years.
Oh, for sure. You're right. So, and it's just like any real estate. I mean, you could say your house is worth 300 grand, but it's only 300 grand if you can sell for 300 grand.
That's right.
Right. So that's
what a willing.
Yeah, that's right. So even with this, so like, CPP, the investment board, they are a group of competent actuaries, and they can only make
CPP don't have actuaries. The only federal actuaries are in the chief actuary's office, which is very interesting.
Okay.
Because when the TELUS report was published, the response from the federal government initially was the chief actuary's office would provide its own report. I'm pretty sure they did, but the quote feds didn't like what was in the report, and it was never published or made or brought into the open. So now they've got 3 other actuarial firms apparently working on figures, but normally these figures would only take about 3 months or so. They're not that complicated. And it's been, 9 months, whatever, certainly enough time to have a baby.
It's almost been a year.
They're not prepared to come back with a figure.
The LifeWorks report came out last August, so it has been a year, and they've probably been sitting on those numbers at least for another month before that. So there's really no reason why we're waiting for this long. And that's, we've gone out and done these meetings. We actually just did a meeting last week in Westlock at a premier Daniel Smith's premier luncheon, and Mitch did a report. And again, that was one of the questions was, what's taking so long in terms of getting this number? And is that number the actual number, the 334 billion? Well, we've done a webinar basically to say, yes, that is the number according to the way I believe it's Section 3 was reported. Tanner would correct me if I'm wrong on that. But in the CPP Act, it spells that out. It should be a fairly simple calculation that the money that went out to there and then is get redistributed, we're entitled to get that money back, right? Minus whatever we've given back to our pensioners. And of course, that number ends up being
given the interpretation of the Act.
That's right. Yeah.
The problem is the feds are trying to change that interpretation.
Of course they are. Of course.
Or the wording even.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it, but when was the last time we heard a truth come out of the Trudeau government's mouths?
That is very true. Yeah. So I just want to touch back on the fact that you did this report 20 years ago. So this is not something that we just decided to jump on last year and say, this is a good idea, let's just do it. This has been an ongoing process. You were involved with it 20 years ago. And here's the big question. Why didn't it pass 20 years ago? Do you know?
The provincial government just wasn't interested.
It wasn't. Okay. End of story. That's pretty much all there was to it.
That's pretty well it.
Yeah. So now, of course, with what's happened over the last few years, and we've all become a little bit more aware of the government spending and the lack of accountability on a lot of the spending, we're saying, you know what, let's hold on. If you were a business, we would want to be able to say we're stakeholders. We want to be able to have some choice in this. But even through the CPB, there is no choice. So this is a great option for us, and we can exercise this option. Any province can exercise this option to be able to bring it back to Alberta. And basically what we would like is to bring it back with that number that's in the LifeWorks report, the 334 billion. And we've done another webinar through the Alberta Prosperity Project, in which we had Trevor Toome, who was also with I believe the Fraser Institute, that did up the numbers, and his calculation is somewhere about 120 to 160 billion, I think is what it is.
Yeah, that's way low. I disagree with this figure.
Yeah. But either way, I mean, there's money that could be brought back to Alberta, and we could be working with right now. And with that, because like you said, we back 20 years ago, we over contributed. You said 1/3. Technically, we over contribute, I guess, 1/2 now, because we contribute 9 billion into the CPB, and we get back 6 billion, right? So every year, okay. Well, you would know better. You would know better than me. I always look at it as
3 billion floating east.
Yeah.
Or 1/3.
The excess. There you go.
So
that's right.
It's the same figure.
Yeah.
Same
that's
figure.
Right. And you know the math better than I do.
Except we get older.
So, but either way, every year that's $3 billion or more, or less, I guess, depending on how it works, that we've been over contributing pretty much since inception, since 1966. Has it been like that? Like we always have over contributed that much?
If you go back to the beginning,
in
1965, 66, at that time, the deal was if you were 10 years retired from that date, you got a full pension, which is normally only available after 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where were all the older people at that time? They certainly weren't in Alberta. There were some, obviously, but nothing like the Maritimes, Ontario, etc.
That's a very important part to
you'll notice I don't mention Quebec because they have their own plan.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that the Quebec plan now has a higher contribution rate than the CPP.
And do they get roughly the equivalent pension?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
They have a few little add-ons, but they don't cost that much.
Okay.
It's basically they on average are lower paid and older than the Canadian population as a whole, and way older than the average in Alberta.
Yeah. And we're still at that rate. We still have a younger population. We still make
it's higher
more.
paid. It's the highest paid population in Canada.
Yeah.
On average.
Yeah. Now, what would happen if, kind of going off script here, what would happen if we had either a lot of immigrants come in and add to the CPP, or worse, what would happen if we lost our younger population for a certain reason? What would end up happening with the pension in that case, whether it's a CPP or an APP? Basically, what would happen in terms of pension? What could happen?
Well, if it reversed, which is highly unlikely, because you can't really change the makeup of a population normally, easily. For example, although Alberta's growing a great deal right now.
Yes, it is.
They're not all, well, the young immigrants are the ones Trudeau's letting in, the excess. They will all be going back to India or wherever they've come from, hopefully, sooner or later. That extra million a year, of whom there's quite a few in Alberta, but there's also a heck of a lot in Ontario, Quebec, and BC.
But they're contributing.
What we're getting in Alberta is people who want to work, and are working age, moving here. Whereas a lot of Albertans that I know of have retired to BC, mainly to Victoria and the island.
And we've talked about that.
It can change, but it's not something that changes overnight. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then that's at least good to know. And we have talked about in terms of where the population would be, where would they retire? Let's just say you're born in Ontario, you work half your life there, you move to Alberta, you work the rest of your remainder, and then you decide to retire in BC or Mexico or wherever it is. It doesn't matter where you're putting your CPP or your APP or your QPP. It wouldn't matter. It would essentially go and it follows you, right?
Yes. For example, I worked in Montreal for 13 years. But latterly moved to Ontario, and then for the last now 38 years, I've been in Alberta. I received the CPP. I would continue to receive the CPP, even if the Alberta Pension Plan was set up.
That's right.
Because when I retired, I was a resident of Alberta, in which time the CPP was applicable.
That makes sense.
Now, for younger people who move here, if the APP set up, they presumably would receive an Alberta pension. But again, that's subject to negotiation. But that's certainly the situation between the CPP and the Quebec Pension Plan.
And if we did bring that money back, the 334 billion, or let's just say it's Trevor Toom's number of like 120 billion, essentially that money is pulled out of the CPP. So then, what happens if
you're a meeting of the investment managers at both sides, and they would decide between themselves which physical assets would be moved. Which stocks, which bonds, which real estate, whatever.
You're right, because they wouldn't just hand over a check for 334 billion. It's all assets. You're right.
Because that would mean a huge dispersal of the assets and presumably large losses to the CPP.
You're right. The same analogy we just used. The house might be worth 300,000, but if you're selling it and you need to get rid of it, they might only sell it for 100. But in the end, for us, it would still be, we still require back $334 billion in tangible assets, I would imagine.
One sort or another.
So So that is interesting, and I'm glad we kind of talked a little bit about that, because again, the number people are always asking, is that number true? And if so, how does that work if we end up getting that number? And you're right, it's not just a big cash handed over, it's the assets. And then we would have a group here in Alberta, or the other option might be, and I'll get your opinion on this, Gordon. The other option, let's just say, I know people are saying the Alberta Investment Board, we wouldn't want to have that, but maybe we could make our own investment board for an APP. But the other option we have is we could actually just split the assets and still have the CPPIB manage that money.
I would suggest not.
There you go. That's what I wanted to hear from you. And why would you suggest not?
We should have the managers here, investing on behalf of Albertans.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting for a moment they should be favoring Alberta companies necessarily, but they shouldn't be ignoring them either.
Yeah. Well, I know Tanner today would say right off the hop, the whole idea of a pension plan and any retirement fund of anything is to maximize money.
Exactly.
So the idea, maximize investment. So the idea would be, if we can do something in Alberta, great. But if that money is better off elsewhere in order to maximize the investment and the profits, then that's where it should go. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, I don't want to invest in China. I don't want to invest in India or wherever else that people are saying not to invest. But if the only way we can actually have that say is to have it here in Alberta first. And then basically, I would almost say, would it work as like if it was an Alberta private company, or where everybody that contributes is a shareholder? I don't know the math and and how you would set that up, but it almost seems to me that if in order for us to have a say in how that money is invested, once it's here in Alberta, there has to be some way that we can make our voices known en masse in order to do that. Would you have any ideas on that?
I would suggest it would be a crown corporation or something similar to that.
Yeah.
And that the say we would have would be through the politicians.
Yeah.
So you couldn't have every Albertan have a say in it, because it would just become impossible.
Yeah. Now, we've talked about having the government at arm's length, or as I usually say, a football field's length away from the money, because we don't want them to be touching any of that money and getting involved in that. So if you're saying in terms of having our politicians involved, or maybe the MLA or whatever, how do you think that should work?
No, it would have to be arm's length.
Okay.
But ultimately, it would be under the auspices, not the control.
Yes.
Of the provincial government. Big difference.
Yeah.
It would have its own board, and it would have its own investment managers.
Okay.
And believe you me, you wouldn't be able to keep the best investment managers at the sort of money we're looking at.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to talk about
government
tonight,
interference all the time.
Yeah. The topic that I wanted to talk about was, so we've talked previously about lowering contributions, maybe making higher pension checks, spousal benefits. What happens if it's a death benefit and you're single? Like what is that right now? Like if you were single,
it's only $2,500.
Yeah.
Initially,
like
back in the 1960s, that was enough to cover a decent burial.
And that's it.
Not today.
I think that covers the food at the wake. Is that all? That's all it covers.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's sad that that's the way it is. But if it's here, then we can at least have influence as Albertans and say this is what we want to have happen to that. We would like a spousal benefit. We would like a death benefit to cover more than just that. I don't even know, would it even be something that we could say you pass down some of the money to your kids, or like, I don't know the intricacies of that. Gordon, do you want to maybe speculate on that?
There's a lot of things that can be done.
Yeah.
The important thing is that the minimum benefit across the board has to be the CPP benefit.
Yeah.
Anything on top of that would be at the discretion of presumably of the government,
Yeah.
but certainly on the advice of the group that would be controlling the Alberta Pension Plan,
Mm-hmm.
because there would have to be an actuarial report prepared every time an improvement is to be looked at,
You
to
are
make
correct.
sure that we're not giving away the store, shall we say.
No, you're right.
And that's currently what happens with the CPP.
Is that right?
The
There's
Chief
always
Actuary's office has to provide the government with a specific actuarial report on any improvement. So I see a parallel in Alberta.
Yeah. So of course there's the CPP 1, I'll call it, and then the CPP 2, which is the little add-on, which is my guess is it'll probably be growing over the next few years anyways. Just
yes,
they need
definitely much faster than the basic
yes.
one.
Oh, for sure. Then does the CPPIB go through and do those actuarial reports for that? And then would we also need to be able to do that as an APP? Like I don't know whether or not we've looked that far ahead to say, you know what, this is the minimum that we'd be able to do. But we also want to be able to do this. So instead of having just an APP contribution, we might need an APP2 contribution. I don't know if you know any or can speculate on that.
I would suggest that would be looked at again as a minimum benefit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're taking something away from people.
Yeah. And again, the idea would be no matter what, if the CPP starts over there in Ottawa and it gets brought over to APP, there's no disruption in service. Everybody gets their checks on time. And in order to do that, it's allocated as 3 years in order to set that up.
Yeah, at least 2 years.
At least, yeah.
It basically goes on a calendar year basis, I gather.
Okay.
So that the government provincial government would generally provide during year A a request to leave the CPP, and 2 full calendar years would have to go through after that.
Yeah.
Before that could be that request could be granted.
And since you've got this,
I think we know that there'll be some other provinces and certainly the federal government trying to fight Alberta leaving, because they know that they'll be losing that $3 billion a year, increasing every year,
absolutely,
until infinitum. Otherwise,
yeah. Now here's a question for you, because you've got the 60 years experience, which is definitely older than me. The 60 years of experience. What if we brought this over here and we set it up? What would be the requirement? Like, could we do it all in one office in Edmonton? Would it need to be spread around? Because I think the CPP right now has 8 offices around the world in order to track their.
That would certainly make sense to have offices around the world. It may be possible to cut a deal with them, whereby Alberta, at least initially, could have some of its representatives in these offices.
Yeah.
Because you have to have, in my view, with the sort of money we're looking at, you have to have local involvement,
which
i.e.
makes sense.
People who know what's going on in the various parts of the world. Yeah. Because we have to be looking essentially at worldwide investments.
I agree. Yeah. So, and again, the question comes up at these meetings, well, can we just keep everything in Alberta? Well, if we had $600 billion in investment in or 334 billion, let me just say that 334 billion investment in Alberta, that's so much money. I've mentioned it before. I used to work at a military contractor company, and we had $3.5 billion to do our project. We could not spend that money. Mm-hmm. There was just that is such a large amount of money that people don't even realize that. And to 100-fold that, to keep it all in Alberta, I mean, I don't even know what we would do with all that money. We'd have arenas everywhere. We'd have sports teams. We'd have oil and gas and infrastructure. And I mean, but we wouldn't be able to make that money back on it because we would basically need that same amount of money every year.
We'd depress the returns on these stocks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
And to the best of my knowledge, the most valuable company in Alberta is Canadian Natural Resources.
Yeah.
And if you were to buy all of its shares, you're looking at just over 100 billion.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
So it gives you some idea of where it really wouldn't work to even contemplate having all or most of the assets invested in the province.
That's right.
That's not to preclude a certain portion of the assets being invested in the province, but it should not be done for political purposes.
Yeah.
Solely for investment purposes.
Do you know anything about the Heritage Fund? I know that's a completely different topic, but just even in terms of where do they invest in? And is that something that an Alberta pension plan could also invest in?
All I know is they've got, which is not huge.
Yeah.
In terms of what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's nothing to stop an agency being set up in the province.
Yeah.
That would invest the heritage money, the provincial pension plan monies, and the Alberta Pension Plan assets. It makes some sense because that way you've got just more to invest and you can spread it out better.
Yeah.
But no, all the decisions should be made on a strictly financial basis.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's get to some of the questions I know people have asked already. Let's see. Well, here's a good statement anyways. I'm going to say, Monica says, hey, Alberta, if you want your own pension plan, then I'm afraid you're going to have to start talking about independence and separation because Ottawa will do everything in their power to shut it down, just like everything else we do. Any comment on that?
That's probably correct, Monica.
Yeah, I agree.
I would not disagree with that.
No. And again, that's maybe one way that we can pull that power away from Ottawa is definitely doing a CPP to APP exchange, which is kind of the whole reason why we're talking about this. Catherine says, who would be in charge of the pension board in Alberta? It is my understanding that Chrystia Freeland now oversees the CPPIB. Would the Premier of Alberta oversee the board?
I don't like the word oversee, but I would think that the board chair would probably report to the Minister of Finance rather than the Premier. That would make sense. That would be a parallel with the CPP.
Is that the way it works in federal right now? CPP reports to the Minister of Finance of.
I believe so, but it may be through. Well, it may be through another minister, but quite possibly.
Okay.
To Chrystia Freeland.
Yeah.
Which makes me shudder, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like you said, if there was a pension board, we would set that up probably from scratch.
Oh yes.
And make sure that it is at arm's length from the government too. Here's one from the Alberta First Pension Group. Many ask about the $3 billion average and say it's not actually an overpayment, that Alberta pays the same amount as everybody else and don't actually contribute. Can you speak to that? We absolutely
do over contribute.
Yeah.
Because from an actuarial point of view, given the average age and the average earnings and the way the CPP provides better benefits per dollar to lower paid people and older people, that $3 billion certainly is there. And that's the same figure we came up with 20 years ago. except we did it as a percentage rather than a dollar amount, but it's the same thing.
Well, that report that you did, that was kind of eye-opening, and I just found out about that. I didn't know whether or not this was something that had been looked at before. I just assumed, like everybody else, that it probably had to do with LifeWorks and coming in and saying this is what we should do. And then here we find out, no, this was already done. We took a look at this 20 years ago, and it didn't go through, right? No. And again, it's because I didn't know about it.
Well, I know Pat Beauchamp brought it to the attention of the provincial government.
Yeah, the world was such
in Edmonton, and he was pretty well known at the time.
Yeah, the world is such a different place now. With the social media and being able to get the news kind of when you want it, in theory, right? Because if you imagine 20 years ago, where did you get your news? Well, we had to listen to the 6 o'clock news. We got it on a newspaper and we listened to it on the radio. That was pretty much the only way we got our news. And yeah, people got emails and that 20 years ago, but certainly not the way that we are now. So I think that also leads to the knowledge that we're able to do this. Whereas 20 years ago, if you would ask somebody, do you think we can do this? Well, I don't think we can do that at all because I don't know anything about it. So that's just the way it is. But now with being able to do these webinars and educate people out there, we can see the benefits of doing this. And Mitch always says, and Mitch is not online. I thought maybe he'd log in at some point during this, but he always says, I don't know why people just don't do this. Why do they not sign up for this? The benefits are right in our faces. We're able to do it. And now would be the time to do it, especially with knowing full well what's happening with the federal government and how much they're overspending and sending money to who knows where and not able to maximize on our CPPIB.
Well, I think, unfortunately, this has become quite political.
Yeah.
And it's obvious to me that the unions are pressing the provincial NDP to oppose the Alberta Pension Plan in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Because most of their membership resides outside Alberta. So this is kind of like an alien invasion, where they are representing the rest of Canada, other than Quebec, of course, against Alberta, because the membership's there.
Yeah.
And the provincial NDP, as we know, are part of the federal NDP. And obviously the unions are aligned with the federal NDP as well.
That's right. Yeah.
So what we're seeing is a real conspiracy of the left against the Alberta Pension Plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been involved a little bit in politics, by the way.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I was part of the Reform Party corporate fundraising team back in the late 80s.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
And with Link Byfield founded the Wild Rose Party and was president of the Reform Party for our riding for a while.
Yeah. Well, that's great because, it's one thing to just talk to somebody that may be able to crunch the numbers, but to know the history and, like I said, to be involved and write the report and know this topic intimately, that's amazing. So I'm so glad that you were able to come on tonight and talk about that. Do you want to maybe have any closing statement or and the easiest thing for a statement would be, do you think this is a good idea and why is it yes?
To my mind, it's an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah.
We have the ability in Alberta to steer our own ship.
Yeah.
Have our own investment team. Have our own benefits with the one caveat that they have to be at least equivalent to the CPP.
Yeah.
So we'd be able to either reduce contributions, improve benefits for future retirees, for current retirees.
Yeah.
Look at things like lump sum benefits on death, survivor pensions, etc.,
Absolutely.
without having to worry or bother about the rest of Canada.
Yeah. Yeah.
So vote for the Alberta Pension Plan.
There
I
you go.
certainly
Exactly.
intend doing
Sign
that.
up. Sign up.
Yeah,
Get
sign
on there. Again, I reiterate this again. Go online. Go online. Go online. Sign up now. I know everybody that's watched this has probably done it already, but send this, share. Remember, send it to your friends, your neighbors, your the cousin you never talk to anymore. Send it to them, and then go and get them to sign up. And of course, they have to be Albertan, right? That's
right.
The whole point. So and the way the software works is we can parse out whether or not you're from Alberta, and likewise, there are people have asked us. Well, I'm not sure if I've signed it already, because I've signed so many different petitions in the last year or whatever. It's, you know what? Sign it again if you're just not sure, because again, our software will go through, and if it's a match on the email or the phone or the name or street address, blah, 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 it picks it out and we'll be able to tell. So, and you know, we are getting numbers up. We're getting numbers up. Are we getting closer to 270,000? Well, every week we're closer to the 270,000 than we were the week before. So that's the whole idea of this. We got a couple of more quick comments here. Yeah, I have to agree. Margaret says people are afraid of change, and even Vera says people are scared of it. So we the whole idea behind this is to educate people and give them the tools that they need so that they feel comfortable. And
there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of.
That's what I say too. But people are afraid of change. So what would you say to the people that are afraid of change? How old are you?
Do your homework.
Can I ask you,
how old are you, Gordon? People.
How old are you, Gordon?
82.
82. There he is. He's not afraid of change, and he's 82. Right? So
well, I worked until I was 76, and I'd still be working if we hadn't sold the company.
I'm pretty sure I'm still going to be working till I'm 80.
Keeps you young.
It does keep me young. That's right. No,
I might not look young, but I sure feel young.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And you know, and there's always we've talked about this before. The CPP was basically designed to be 25% of your income. So, you know, there always is that need for people to take to do their own finances and to invest in their own RSP and whatever other vehicle that they can. But this is one that is the CPP or the APP would basically be a tax, for no other word, in order to do into what do you call that? Is it a defined contribution plan, or what do they call that?
Well, we have a defined benefit plan right now.
Yeah.
We were proposing 20 years ago.
Yeah.
A side defined contribution plan, but with a basic defined benefit plan in place. Yeah. But if people are scared, they should be scared of one thing: the $1.4 trillion deficit of the Canada Pension Plan. That's what should scare them. Yeah. They should be scared to stay in the CPP, not concerned about the APP.
Yeah. Now would be the time to get out then, is what you're saying.
Before the tsunami arrives, the stock market goes down 50%.
Yeah, you're right.
And the unfunded liability all of a sudden is over $2 trillion.
Yeah, you're right. We've seen the hiccups already, even just a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, that's a possibility. So,
well, I was just reading a couple of days ago that the U.S. market is overvalued compared with October 1929.
Is that right?
If that doesn't scare you, nothing should.
Wow. So then, what would the CPPIB or an Alberta pension plan do to mitigate some of that issue? Do you know what they would do? Like, would they?
It's very difficult because at the same time, you've got the problem with property values.
Yeah.
You got the problem with mortgages.
Yeah.
I noticed just about all of the big Canadian banks have had their prospective stock prices reduced in the last few days.
Mm-hmm.
And I presume that's one of two things. The first would be lower interest rates, and the second would be probably mortgage and car loan losses.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. One more quick comment here. Margaret says, would the Fed set part of the debt to Alberta if we had our own Alberta pension plan?
No,
so we're talking
the 300 odd billion.
Yeah,
it is not subject to the $1.4 trillion unfunded liability.
Wow.
That's owned by the CPP. That's not a debt that could be passed to the APP.
Wow.
Sounds like a hydrogen bomb going off, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, pretty much, because then we pull out 334 billion. They're left with, roughly the same amount, let's just say. And yet they still have the 1.4 trillion liability.
That's right.
Wow. So maybe all you provinces out there, get out now. I don't know if that's the smartest thing to say, but man,
well, I'm not planning to sell our house. It's going to my daughter.
Yeah.
Or our daughter. But if they were all to move here, at least for a while, our real estate in Alberta would be going up.
Yeah.
And presumably our downtown in Calgary, we wouldn't have the 30% vacancy.
No, you're right. Yeah. Yeah. Again, there's a lot of issues that we could easily touch on in future episodes, just about what could the benefits be of an Alberta pension plan, just in terms of not even money wise, like what would be the benefits of being able to do this and being able to help people in Alberta and basically give people maybe an actual living income on their pension instead of being caught at. We've had people that have like making $420 a month. Like that's not even a mortgage payment. That's like groceries for a couple of weeks, right?
One interesting other statistic I just saw the other day is that in terms of the high-tech industry, more money was invested in the province of Alberta last year than in BC.
Oh, wow.
And we always hear about the huge investments in IT, etc. in BC.
That's right.
Guess what? We're taking that over too.
Definitely need to be tooting our own horn more and more.
Precisely.
Yeah. Yeah. We love Alberta and we want to do whatever we can to be prosperous here, and especially, if it deals with the pension plan. So with that, I'm gonna wrap up. Thanks again, Gordon, for coming out. Are you comfortable with anybody contacting you at some point? Like, do you want to send out your email or anything? I can always put that in the comments.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just
the
Gordon
more
B.
the
Lang at Gmail. I'll put that in the
Gordon B. Lang at gmail.com.
Excellent. And then, if anybody does want to contact you, then that would be a great thing. I always encourage people that, if you've got extra comments or something that you want to say to the guest, keep it civil.
In fact, I would welcome calls from union members and their supporters because, as I say, they're being provided with biased information.
Yeah, I agree.
For political purposes.
Well, with that, I'm going to say that once again, thanks, Gordon. Of course, we also like to thank everyone for staying online and watching and listening and commenting and asking questions. Once again, we do this every second Tuesday. We'll be taking questions and compiling them even after, and then we can always get Gordon or Mitch to answer your questions as well. And like Nicole had said right at the beginning, we're looking for volunteers. You can always send us a message at Alberta First Pension at Gmail. That gets us there too. And with that, once again, thank you so much, Gordon. And I wish everyone a fabulous rest of the evening. And once we get our fundraiser stuff set up, we're going to be excited to announce that. And hopefully we'll be able to have people out there. Gordon, you'll definitely be on the short list to come on out with that as well, too. So,
okay.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Beautiful evening out there. So
yes, and go out there and enjoy.
If some people decided to do something else. We've got
and you know what? That's
also playing golf.
The nice thing about these webinars is people can watch them, indefinitely after, because all the content that we're talking about right now will be relative.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And especially it's at least 20 years old, according to your last report.
And it's
all right,
so
everybody.
Applies.
That's right.
It's like a good wine that still applies. Gets better.
Wow. Okay. All right. With that, good night, everybody. Cheers. Thanks, Gordon.
Good night.